Hi and welcome to another episode of eCommerce One, and today's guest is Emily McGuire. Now, Emily is the owner and chief email marketeer and at Flourish and Grit, an email marketing and automation studio based out of Michigan. How are you doing, Emily?
I'm doing as well as I could be in the weirdest year ever.
Tell me about it. Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah.
It certainly is. Doesn't get much crazier than these times, does it really?
Yes, exactly.
So today's episode is very much going to be focused on email marketing. So I know it's something that I am super passionate about. I know something that my agencies are super passionate about. So I'm looking forward to getting the lowdown and hopefully definitely sharing some amazing nuggets for our listeners. So how long have you been working in email marketing? So what made you get into it? Let's get straight into it.
Yeah, so I've been doing only email marketing it's been about 6 or 7 years now. Before that, I was a digital marketing generalist.
Yeah.
So I did all the things. And like most people, I started in digital marketing with social media.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this is on computers. You can do email too, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I just got thrown on my plate, and then Google and I became best friends, frantically Googling all the things. So most of that, most of that's been in the e-commerce retail space. So working brand side before I went out on my own.
So some brilliant insights on their way for our e-com readers. So what would you say some of the sort of things you're seeing that are coming through on the future of email marketing for e-commerce stores?
For e-commerce, so people are talking a lot about predictive analytics, right? So being able to capitalize on all of the data out there to see when people are most likely to purchase again, and what campaigns are particularly working well. But that requires having the resources to be able to dig into the analytics, right? And really strategize around that.
So somebody's already bought from your store and then using the predictive sort of technologies to predict when they're likely to, when's a good time to then obviously put another offer or another series of emails in front of them. Are there any sort of specific, let's say, softwares or softwares really that people can look at that can help them with that? You know, obviously I think a lot of our listeners will be sort of Magento, Shopify, a lot of the usual culprits, WooCommerce, those type of platforms. Any specific tools that you'd recommend on that?
So actually an email service provider called Klaviyo is, if I'm sure people are already familiar with that, if they're in the e-commerce space. They have really incredible predictive analytics around email. It's actually, and for the price point, I can't believe they can offer that. So that's what I recommend.
Yeah, I was actually on their site the other day. They're on our hit list of guests for our podcast.
Okay.
So we'll be having a chat with them soon. I'm certain of it. So I think what surprises me still with e-commerce stores is probably the lack of use of email. I think that's one of the big things. They're very focused on new business, from the usual culprits, which are SEO and PPC, which is great because that's, I run 2 agencies that do that. But email, it astounds me when we see the amount of firms that aren't doing email. What would your advice be to e-commerce stores that are maybe just getting started with it at that early stage, trying to get things implemented with email systems and email automations? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, so I mean, SEO and PPC is obviously amazing, right? Like it drives a ton of traffic to your store.
Yeah.
But the average website has about a 50% bounce rate. So that means people, like half that traffic is just leaving after one visit.
Yeah.
And which means those are a ton of opportunities for sales that could be captured with an email address, right? So having that email address to then keep following up, like that's the beauty, right? Is the follow-up. That can be incredibly targeted based on how they signed up, how their traffic source, right? And then you can capitalize on what pages they were browsing, and provide really personalized content. So I've seen the power of email, especially in e-commerce. Before I went out on my own, I was working in-house for a large e-commerce company And I was on a team there were 5 of us only working on email. And we were bringing in about $20 million a year just in email campaigns.
Wow.
So I have seen the power that it can provide.
Yeah, I have to say I've seen a similar thing. Yeah, I think it's sort of night and day when people aren't using it, and then you then they start to use it. And just when we use it in our business, some of the returns are just insane. They are ridiculous,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can make up like 20 to 30% of your revenue easily.
So what would be a sort of a first thing they should set up? So you've got an e-com store, you've got no email going out, which is unlikely you've got no email, but it happens, doesn't it?
Right.
What would be the first sort of set of emails, first thing you would start to work on, or you would recommend them to work on? They've got no emails going out. All they've got is maybe receipt emails and order process emails, but nothing else. What would be the first sort of email or set of emails that you would work on?
Yeah, so greatest hits in email marketing. The first one would be, your welcome series. So working really strategizing and working on getting that opt-in offer. So giving a juicy morsel to collect those email addresses.
Yeah.
And then once they sign up, that's the most engaged they're going to be as a new subscriber.
Yeah.
And so really capitalizing on that by serving up a welcome series. So that can be anywhere from 1 to 5 emails, depending on your customers. And then the other one, which is like the biggest ROI email automation campaign, is an abandoned cart campaign. At least having one email, but having more than one is absolutely powerful.
I think it's 2 things there that, if you're listening to the podcast, there's 2 things there that if you get those in place, I would vouch for that. So anybody that's been to the store that's about to check out, that hasn't checked out, or has got so far, depending on where they are in the process, but still they've not checked out, an abandoned cart sequence or an email as a minimum. Just to remind you, I know just literally a couple of days ago, I started to sign up for something. It was an information product, actually, not an e-com product, but it's a very similar process. And I went through the first step of the process, but I was like, actually, I'll buy this product with my other agency, because I've got 2 agencies here. I thought I needed to have it. So I've actually now got the email experience of an abandoned carter from one of my main emails, and an actual purchaser. And it's sheer brilliance what they're doing in their follow-up. I've had about 6 abandoned cart emails now, and I just think, what more could he say to me to try and convince me to buy it? Obviously, I've already bought it over here, but it's just so good, and I love being sort of sold to. I love that craft of it, because it is a real craft, isn't it? So that abandoned cart, and then as you said, that initial welcome sequence, whether they're signing up for a voucher or a newsletter or whatever it may be. So what sort of things could go in that welcome sequence to make it a real wow experience in those first few emails?
Yeah, well, certainly having an offer for sign up, delivering that offer, and then reminding people of that offer, right? So that means, those first, or anything after that first email where you're delivering the offer, having, your best sellers in an email, customer favorites, that kind of thing, things you might like, but also like telling your brand story as well, like giving it some personality to make it likable, but also just include, like, reiterating that offer in every single email, so that, because you can't expect people to remember, like, I did sign up for a discount when I gave them
just reconfirming, going through it again. It might seem over the top, but people skim, don't they? They skim, and what was the offer again? I can't find it. Well, it's there in black and white, but let's remind them again. Let's just confirm again. And then I'll look at showing them certain bestsellers, products, discount, reminding of the discount. Yeah, great. So two very quick takeaways, guys, listening in, straight out the gate, which is great. So with a lot of email marketing and our marketers, I see a lot of scarcity in emails.
Yes.
Just sort of saying, you know, offers going to run out, and at this point, you know, and some of it is a little bit borderline for me in terms of, well, it's not really going to run out, is it? It's not, you know, it's not the way. So some of the language that's used in some of the sort of trying to convince you that, you know, there's certain headlines just seems a little bit too much sometimes. What are your thoughts on sort of scarcity in emails and email sequences?
I mean, it's powerful, right? It works because we do purchase based on feelings, right? And scarcity invokes fear, and FOMO, right? Fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And but if you overuse it, it loses its credibility, right?
Yeah.
And its leverage.
That's the key word, isn't it? That credibility and your credibility as a seller. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then also people don't understand that sometimes when you issue an offer or you put out an offer in an email or anywhere, that it does expire. You know, like we don't always realize that, like, oh yeah, there's a sale going on. And then you're expected to read the fine print where it says it expires in however many days. So like even just having that reminder is not necessarily an overused tactic, but it is helpful to let people know this offer is ending. So, but don't overuse it, because
don't overuse it, but use it. You're saying use it, but obviously you've got to do it in the right way. Don't overuse it, and don't over push it. But you're reminding people that there is going to be a hard deadline. As long as there is a hard deadline or a hard discount, that it does finish at a certain point.
Exactly.
Because I know in the UK we have, it's slightly different, but we have there's like different high street stores, and their TV adverts will come on and go, right, sale ending next week, and those adverts have been running for like 9 years.
Exactly. Yeah,
and it just loses that whole, it's like, oh, whatever, I'm not even listening.
Well, and it's trust too, right?
So straight away it's just like, really, the bank holiday sale, and then the Christmas sale, and then the Easter sale, and the whatever it may be. I'm sure you're getting a lot of Thanksgiving sales coming up or whatever.
No, we're sort of like in the US, we've sort of passed Thanksgiving at this point. Everybody's on to Christmas
already.
because nobody's like, it feels like we're not even having Thanksgiving this year. It's like, Thanksgiving what?
Okay, so we've now been, as an e-com store owner, you've got your welcome series set up, for your juicy offer that you're giving them. You've got an abandoned cart set up. We've sent some emails around specific offers that are sort of time focused or discount focused at a certain time. What would be some of the metrics we should be looking at to measure now to see how well things are going, where we should dial things in or turn things down, and measure how well things are going? What sort of things should we be looking at in terms of measuring success?
Yeah, so I mean, most people hyper focus on open rates. Which can tell you, to me, they tell me the health of your list, right? So how engaged are people overall? And if you have people who are falling off and not being engaged anymore, then your open rates drop. And to me, that tells you that you need to start cleaning out your list. Because it can affect your ability to end up in the inbox, as opposed to the spam folder.
And what sort of things you do to clean the list? Are you literally just go in and remove people that haven't opened after so long, or what?
I mean, look at your average, maybe like it depends on how many emails you're sending out. But typically I start at between 3 and 6 months to see when people are opening, and then consider unsubscribing them. Or at the very least just tagging them as unengaged so you can look at them later. And make that decision.
Deal with them differently, sort of thing.
Okay. And then the other thing is obviously revenue. So if you haven't yet already figured out how to tie revenue to specific email campaigns, I mean, that's crucial, right? To see individually which email campaigns are bringing in the money. But on top of that, what I typically recommend are also watching your unsubscribe rates, because churning through contacts that creates more work for you eventually, right? Because the more people who unsubscribe, the more new subscribers you have to go collect. And it's more expensive to go acquire new subscribers and new customers than it is to keep your current ones. So and that's going to happen. You know, people are going to move on, they're going to unsubscribe, but watching for it should be under 1% for email, but watching it to make sure that you have a baseline, and if it spikes at any point, something's going on that needs to be looked at.
Okay, so quite a few things there to look at, but I think you touched on obviously that the difference between, you know, we're trying to engage our existing list, but we're also trying to build a new list. Now, get new subscribers. What are some of the strategies you'd recommend to our listeners to engage and get new subscribers to our lists?
Yeah, I mean, definitely have a compelling offer that's not giving away the whole store, right? Something that's tantalizing, that's not going to, you know, set you up for failure in the future. So usually a discount or a freebie of some kind works. And having two things around that. One is having a pop-up on your site. Pop-ups can increase sign up by 30%. And they don't have to be annoying. People get really icky about pop-ups, but you can do that really strategically so it isn't super intrusive to the user experience. And then also having a landing page dedicated to that sign-up offer and the sign-up form, so you can push that out in the world. So you can start driving traffic directly to that offer. That's something I don't see a lot of e-commerce companies doing. They just expect people to land on the homepage and then figure out that there's an offer to sign up.
It's one of those, isn't it? I think, like you say, with a few other things that we should have a minimum campaign set up, and having something that you can consistently drive your other marketing efforts to, that isn't just a landing page, category, subcategory product. It's a very specific page that's been designed to get your email rather than get a sale, which is most e-commerce pages. It's trying to get your email, and then at some point you'll get the sale further down the line. So thinking about creating specific landing page, that's a great takeaway, I think, there. Yeah,
that you can promote on social media, that you can drive any of your Google ads or Facebook ads to, right? Like, I think often we assume that there's a one-to-one correlation between an ad and a sale, and that buying cycle can take a little longer for some subscribers, for some customers.
So with e-commerce stores, you've got obviously all sorts of intent with people that have already bought, people that have gone through the checkout, people that have maybe filled in the the different forms that you built on your website, and obviously all different types of customer or potential customer there. What would you say about creating different segments within your lists and within your database, or your, if you're using Klaviyo or whatever it may be, what sort of segments should we have segmenting that list? What sort of things would you say about that?
So bare minimum, so this is something I don't see a lot of companies doing, is minimum having a segment of your customers, people who have purchased, and having a segment of people who have never purchased. Those are two different audiences, and they'll respond to different offers. Your customers, people who've bought from you before, don't need as much incentive as those who have never purchased, right? And so sending the same discount to all of those subscribers, like, you could have made more profit on one segment. So that's bare minimum. The other ones are your most engaged subscribers, people who are opening the most, sending those people specific offers, right? Or maybe upping the ante a little bit to those folks if they've never purchased before. And then your most valuable customers, the people who have bought the most or spent the most. So those are the minimum I would recommend. And then obviously category, if you have category purchasers or browsers, right? People who are browsing specific categories.
It really starts to make you think, doesn't it? I think as I don't have an e-commerce store now, but I'm thinking straight away of clients and what I used to have, many years ago.
Mhm.
And but yeah, straight away, obviously customers, not customers, engaged with people that are opening the emails, obviously are interested, but they're just not bought yet. Why haven't they bought?
Mhm.
Oh, they got them over the line. Oh, they bought this set of this category, obviously related, associated products, upsell, cross-sell products. Just opens a whole opportunity then to move them from one segment to another segment, and then keep pushing that segment, keep them, they're now over here because they bought this, right? Let's show them the new version of XYZ.
Exactly.
So obviously we're sending a lot of emails there potentially, which is good. What would you say about trying to improve? So we're sending those emails, those maybe half a dozen different segments or more, obviously a lot more depending on the size of the catalog. What would you say about some tricks and sort of strategies to help get those emails open, to improve the open rates on the emails that we're sending?
Yeah. So first of all, the caveat to that is I have not seen a correlation to between higher open rates and more revenue on an email campaign. So open rates are not the end all be all of an email metric, right? So it's great if your goal is to keep your audience engaged so that when you do have a really time sensitive offer, or like the holidays, if you really depend on the holidays to drive most of your revenue, keeping your list engaged is important. But open rates in general, to get people to open, the first thing they look at is the sender name. It's an often overlooked part of the email strategy. But if you don't make it super clear who the email is from, if you have some random person's name from the company, they're not going to know. I mean, unless, that person's a superstar and everybody knows that person, they're not going to know who it is. So making sure your sender name is crystal clear on who the brand is. And then the second part is in your subject lines, making them using the word "you" in a subject line has shown to increase open rates. So it really helps you as a writer of subject lines reframe the way you're thinking about your email in terms of what's the benefit of inside the email, right? What's the outcome? What's the aspiration that you're going to help people achieve by opening the email?
I think the sender name is an interesting one, because I think I've seen where you'll sign up for something, you get that sender name, but then the sequence so far in it'll change. Like it might say, "Hey, I'm Johnny from the marketing department," but it's obviously it's automated. So it's like it's like almost like a pattern interrupt, or an interrupt to that. Oh, who's this guy? Who's this lady?
Exactly. Exactly. And I've tested things like that, and I've seen higher open rates when you switch it to somebody's personal name, but at the same time, unsubscribes skyrocketed. So like that can have a backlash effect where people feel like they've been tricked or duped into opening the email. And again, it ruins that trust with your brand.
Yeah, but like you say, I think open rates is more of a vanity metric. It's obviously the ultimate, or after revenue as an e-com store, as any business.
Yes, exactly.
So someone's been on your list for a long time. They've not done anything. They've not opened anything. What a I think that's everybody listening that's got email lists. Very much so. We've got a lot of people on our list potentially that just haven't done anything, bought anything, clicked on anything, or very little. I guess two-part question really. So identifying those people that haven't, what's some ways to do that? Or who should we be looking for, and who should we target, and how can we re-engage them?
Yeah, so when you really want to start looking at people or cleaning up all the people who have stopped opening, again, it sort of depends on your email cadence in general. But like start to look at people who haven't opened anything in 6 months.
6 months.
And and like just start there as the baseline. And you might find that you want to back that up a little bit more into 5 months or 4 months or 3 months. And you can do one of two things. You can temporarily suppress those people from your list, like sort of give them a pause from your email campaigns, give them a breather. And then, maybe after a couple of months, start a reactivation campaign. And so the first emails they're getting from you again are, hey, where have you been? That kind of stuff. Just talk to people, people.
I like that. I've not thought of that. So give them an actual break, stop. And then 2 months later, what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, it's been a minute. What's up?
And then they'll be like, they might be like, I thought you deleted me. Great.
Yeah, exactly. And then send a series of, like 3 to 5 emails over the course of a few weeks. And if they open one, great, they're back on the list. And if they don't, then, maybe that's time to unsubscribe. And the other part of that too is like at 6 months, you can just start sending that sequence. But I think after getting a pause from you, they're more likely to notice.
I like that, because I think most people suggest and teach to delete so many people after so long, and I have to admit I've done that a lot over the years and done a similar thing, but to obviously just pause, but actively pause. It's not just pause because you're lazy and you forgot to send emails. It's
right, exactly.
Right. We'll take anybody, find me everybody that's not opened an email in 6 months, put them into this segment, which is basically leave alone for 3 months, and then reintroduce them with our reactivation campaign. That's, hey, what happened? Where have you been?
Exactly. Yes, I missed you. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I know you've worked on a lot of different e-commerce stores, email marketing over the years, and I've been asked to ask you to tell us about a abandoned cart campaign that you worked on that's generated over £1 million annually.
Yeah, well, $1 million US. So not quite
sorry,
that
yes,
much.
of course.
I wish that would make it more impressive, right? Yeah, it could be. Yeah, so like I said, abandoned cart is like one of the greatest hits of email automations for e-commerce, and I was tasked with testing an abandoned cart campaign. We had 3 emails, and we tested each one individually. Ran the gamut of subject lines, formatting, the sense of urgency kind of thing. And what we found, interestingly enough, was that the scarcity piece worked really well with abandoned cart. So saying that the items aren't going to last forever, but also having a discount, having an offer on those emails worked really well.
Do you put the offer in straight away, or do you use that comes after a little while, or?
So I have done, with this particular campaign, we did the offer straight away. And so we had the same offer on the first 2 emails, and then the third one we upped to the ante. But that goes, that can be a bit of a slippery slope, because now consumers are used to that kind of thing, right? So they might hold out to check out until you send that email with the offer.
They know, don't they? They're expecting it. They're waiting. Where's the 5%? Where's the 10%?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, they're off to find a discount code. Googling discount code.
Some people have that kind of time and patience. But yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think again, you guys that are listening to the episode, that abandoned cart, I think in every system that I'm aware of, it is very easy to set up nowadays. With the technology, most platforms come with it, or it's just a very simple plugin. Obviously, a lot of options there, different providers, but ultimately you're setting up a 1, 2, 3, 4 emails maybe, and saying, there's an urgency discount. That's simple. And when you think about buying anything online, unfortunately or fortunately, people need a nudge. People need a push. People need to be. It's like when I think of that as we do a lot of AdWords marketing and remarketing, but it's a bit like remarketing. We know that if we don't have remarketing dialed in on our ad campaigns, it's going to be nowhere near as successful. If we're just relying on ads running and then buying straight away, people don't buy straight away. A lot of people need that nudge. Do you know what? Bugger it. Let's just buy the damn thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
I mean, our attention spans are really short,
yeah, yeah.
especially in digital marketing.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
so much noise out there, isn't it? And
Mhm.
it just happens. Just like, you go to buy something and then it's like, oh, do you know what? I'll do it later, and then you just forget, don't you?
Mhm.
Or you're going to do it later. And then 3 days have gone by. You've had your 2 reminder emails, your abandoned cart, your remarketing AdWords, your abandoned email number 3. Oh, do you know I need to get that? Whereas
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that's not in place, it's huge. It's a huge, it's tens of percent increase in sales for e-commerce stores. So that if you're listening into this episode and you're at this point, I would pause right now on this podcast and go and set that damn thing up.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like you said, it's so easy. The first
yeah,
time I set up an abandoned cart email was like 6 or 7 years ago,
yeah.
and I had to go in and like hard code it into our website, and it was awful, and it's so easy now. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a bit more of a personal question now.
Uh-oh. I'm ready.
So we've got a lot of Harry Potter fans. So Snape versus Sirius Black, who do you prefer and why?
Oof. Oh my God. I want to say Sirius. I do. My heart says Sirius, but Snape was the pragmatic one, right? He was the steady, dedicated one, even though he was kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
And Sirius is just like stuck in the past. He just wants
Yeah.
to have his fun with Harry. Yeah, that was it the 5th book when he went through whatever? Oh, devastated.
I've got my youngest son. He's not too far away right now. He's upstairs. I'll give him a mention. I'll let him have a listen. One day I'll listen to one of my episodes. He's watched all the films 20 times, every single one.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
eight of them, isn't it? So he's about 160 films he's watched. He's absolutely obsessed. A little bit less so now because he's a little bit older now, but he's
Yeah,
obsessed.
someday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a 3-year-old, and someday we'll get in there.
You'll be like, yay!
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I like to finish every episode, Emily, with a book recommendation. If you were to recommend one book to our listeners, what would that be?
Oh, marketing specific?
No, it can be anything you like. Anything you like. It can be Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, whatever it is. No, it can be anything you want. It could be marketing, if you want to do marketing. It can be mindset. It can be anything.
Yeah, anything.
Anything.
So I have discovered something about myself recently, that I cannot read nonfiction. I'm a big reader. I love reading fiction.
Yeah.
But right now I am listening to a book called Burnout.
Okay.
And it's about, just that, burnout.
Yeah.
And it's about, essentially emotional intelligence and how to let go of emotions so that they're not eating at you all the time. And it's blowing my mind. It's so good.
Fantastic. I think that'll resonate with a lot of people right now. We obviously
Exactly.
lots of stuff going on in everyone's minds at the moment. So obviously a lot of changes over these last few months that everyone's having to work through, and that sounds great. So burnout, we'll get that. What we'll do, we'll make sure that's linked up on the show notes. So thank you so much for being a guest on eCom at One. For the guys that are listening and that would like to find out more about yourself and your business, and what's the best place to reach out and find you on the web?
Well, I do hang out on the internet. Thank you so much for asking. So I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So come find me there. I'm posting all the time about email marketing and all those things. And then I do have a free action guide on my website about how to boost your email open rates.
Yeah.
And there's like a subject line formula in that and all that stuff. And it's called, it's at flourishgrit.com/open.
/open. Yeah. Well, we'll also make sure that's linked up on the show notes as well. Well, thank you so